Every empire falls. Regardless of their reach or their might, they all fall down.
The British Empire's fleets were not enough. Persian civilization was not enough. Rome's riches were not enough. If every empire declines, is the American empire crumbling before our eyes?
We are well underway on the ride
For the
down.
first time in U.S. history, a convicted felon will sit in the Oval Office.
work for the American people.
How does an empire die?
Tribes, armies, and organizations appear and devour the heritage of the former superpower, often from within.
And what we not gonna do is stand around while they pull this bullshit that they trying to pull right now.
America is not the greatest country in the world anymore.
The House of Cards, known as the American Empire, is collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions, which can easily be seen by examining three key areas of previous
When
empires.
its people no longer believe in it, then does an empire begin to die.
Let's dive into the fall of Rome, the blueprint for greatness that America seems to be following, right down to its tragic unraveling.
Rome, at the height of its grandeur and its glory, a civilization so powerful it could never be conquered from without. Yet it found the seeds of its destruction within itself.
The Roman Empire was an unparalleled superpower of the ancient world. Its contributions, architecture, art, law, and philosophy are still seen, studied, and appreciated even today. Conquering vast territories and ruling over millions of people, it literally shaped the world in its image.
That is the Roman way.
Possibly the biggest and most epic contribution from Rome was its fall. But it didn't fall in a day. It fell slowly. It was death by 1,000 cuts.
Today, we'll compare Rome's deepest piercing wounds to America's.
Internal decay.
The ruling class owned bountiful homes, hundreds of slaves, and hosted lavish banquets for one another, reclining on silken couches, eating roasted peacock and honey-soaked dormice. Contrast that with the squalor of overcrowded and overpriced tenements, where the poor battled against broken-down buildings.
They were also susceptible to being on fire, collapse, and aided in the spread of disease.
Look, the Romans built this stuff. It must have been good for them to live there. No, for most of the people, they had an oppressive government that was stealing lots of stuff.
The wealthy avoided taxes through bribery and influence, while the commoners, their tax burden was increased repeatedly. And if, for some reason, they could not pay, the very real possibility of slavery loomed over all of their heads. Justice was for sale in the final days of the empire, as bribery swayed decisions in every corner.
Things got worse for the individuals as their big, intrusive government was stepping on them more and more. So what you started seeing was people actually leaving the Roman Empire voluntarily to go among the barbarians because life would be better.
Deep resentment festered in the empire, erupting into protests, uprisings, and violent riots. Now, what can this tell us about Rome's great-grandson, America?
The American dream.
The American dream. American dream.
The American dream.
Owning a home,
Because in a well-built house with adequate leisure, they can live and work as better Americans.
The American dream once promised that hard work would lead to success and a comfortable life. Today, this ideal seems out of reach for many Americans.
Living in America.
It turns out there is 1 cent that women just can't get enough of on a man. 1 cent.
If I smelled this on him, I would jump on him for sure.
I couldn't keep my hands off him the whole night.
So what would you do if your boyfriend was wearing this cologne? We'd have to go. I'd have to go meet him right now.
The 1 cent works because it's packed with animalic accords that men have used for thousands of years to attract women. And today, no other scent contains this unique combination of animalic accords that women can't get enough of on a a man.
I was just walking past this guy and OMG, I smelled the best thing ever.
You can't buy this 1 cent in any department store, and you can't find this 1 cent anywhere else. The only place to get the 1 cent that women love most on a man is right here, directly from me. I've bottled this 1 cent into the world's first and only attraction cologne for men who want more romantic attention from women. Click now to get a bottle sent to you so you can try it out for yourself and see how much romantic abundance you're getting in your life. Click now to get your full bottle of the attraction cologne today. Just $9 gets you going. $9 for a full bottle. Remember, this is 1 cent that women love most on a man, and you can get your bottle on sale today to begin your life of abundance and experience everything that life has to offer. Click now, supplies are limited. Click right now for your bottle of the world's first and only attraction cologne. Just $9 today. Limit 1 per household.
Smell is on the top of the list, and this is killer.
Business taxes was always so all-consuming. Now Business Taxes is having a TurboTax small business expert who handles your taxes for you. With year-round advice and answers at no extra cost. So you have more time and money for your business. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax.
Is freaking ridiculous right now. I can't afford any of these apartments.
$1,800 for a one-bedroom apartment.
$1,400 for 485 square feet.
I guess I'll just live in my truck.
Today, financing the American dream in America is a far-fetched fantasy for most of America.
It's the new face of homelessness in America. Folks who are working full-time but with nowhere to live.
I would have never imagined that we would be homeless. Never.
When you're that hungry to steal bread from the restaurants behind the stores, you're hungry.
The gap between the rich and the rest of us is getting bigger as they have stagnated wages and their companies have exploded the cost of living.
Right now in the United States, we are facing a hunger crisis.
This bag of meat, $16.47. How are we supposed to feed our families like this, you guys? Like, what are y'all doing?
Compare the U.S. to almost any other advanced country, everything costs more. Doctors cost more, drugs cost more, devices cost more.
America is devolving into a country that is for the corporations and by the corporations.
It's like a big company, like a big corporation, America Incorporated.
Big pharma spreading addiction, con artist insurance companies, corporate landlords price-fixing entire cities. Even grocery stores are playing God, turning essentials into luxury items, blaming the supply chain and watching their profits soar.
Meanwhile, Tyson Foods, a major producer of chicken, beef, and hot dogs, increased its profits by 140% last quarter.
Elon Musk has been given access to the U.S. Treasury Department's vast payment system. The move essentially puts the government's multi-trillion-dollar checkbook in the hands of the world's richest man.
Blatant corruption, unchecked government, and unchecked corporations cause anger and frustration, which adds to the financial erosion of America.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Not only is the nation crumbling financially, but the social fabric is unraveling also.
Americans are so furious about healthcare that they are straight up murdering CEOs in broad daylight.
Government-backed white supremacy, failure to protect the most vulnerable.
Atlanta, 2 students and 2 teachers were killed.
And reckless leadership driving the nation into chaos. All fuel an internal collapse of confidence and a complete breakdown of society.
It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
The American empire has thrived because of 2 complementary forces, hard power and soft power. You can think of soft power as feminine, the ability to attract and entice, and hard power as masculine, the ability to enforce. Both persuade subordinates to do what you want them to do. Which brings us to our second symptom of imperial downfall, the loss of soft power. To understand soft power and its role in the downfall of empires, let's compare the USA to the very first superpower that ever existed, the Persian Empire. Persian Empire was unique. It was established and governed primarily through soft power.
The first Persian Empire was founded by Cyrus the Great.
Cyrus created and maintained an empire thanks no doubt to his military savvy, but he was also a political genius. He was an excellent, benevolent manager of men. The Jews called him Mashiach, or Anointed One. His own people called him Father, and even the Ionian Greeks whom he conquered called him a just and worthy lawgiver and ruler.
Cyrus the Great, a visionary leader and a ruler who was called out by name by the prophet Isaiah 150 years before his birth. Cyrus conquered all that he saw, a realm so vast that it stretched from the sun-baked plains of Mesopotamia to the rugged mountains of Central Asia. He freed the Jewish people from Babylon and built the first stable, sprawling government.
The Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great soon became the world's first superpower.
It was soft power at its finest. He abolished slavery throughout his entire empire. He allowed conquered kings to stay in their position over their people, and he allowed people the freedom of religion with a highly effective decentralized system. For as long as the leadership was strong and just, all of the subjects worked harmoniously under one flag for the good of the empire. After the reign of Darius the Great, the government became a toxic environment.
Kings became greedy and began stealing from the supply of riches. The people below the upper class started organizing riots. The satraps also became more independent. They even waged war on each other.
When the people stopped believing in the empire's moral high ground, it lost the intangible glue that held its vast territories together. Once the sprawling empire lost its soft power, it lost all that it had. And just like Persia, America manipulated soft power to become the most powerful nation the world has ever seen.
This is the big picture.
Since the end of World War II,
The first atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
America didn't just win the war, it won the world after showing the world that it had the most destructive power known to man and the moxie to use it. The USA, the most charismatic and feared salesman the world had ever seen, sold the idea of a wholesome, democratic American dream. After creating international organizations to control the world's currency, the USA set off on a PR campaign to position itself as the architect of a new world order, where its power would be unrivaled. And it wasn't just economic power, it was soft power. Hollywood, pop culture, American capitalism, and the promise of a just democracy became America's calling card, even though America's credibility has been suspect since day one. To maintain the charade and influence the planet the way America wants to influence the planet,
We have led by our example as a shining city on a hill. Relax. Okay, please. You're doing fine. You're talking fine.
the world needs to believe in American moral authority and in the dream that it sells. The American product seems to have lost a lot of its appeal, and the mask has come off, both at home.
He will be the first president to enter the White House as a convicted felon.
And abroad. America has toppled democracies, weaponized the dollar, sponsored ethnic cleansing, committed atrocious human rights violations.
We tortured some folks.
From the world's move toward de-dollarization to a fading global influence in technology, media, and diplomacy, America's soft power is unraveling. When soft power fails, empires lean on hard power to enforce their will.
That brings us to our final symptom of a sick and dying empire, world domination by hard power. And a great example of hard power unseating a world leader is the British colonial empire. The British Empire looked and acted exactly how you think a colonial empire would, with tyranny, conquest, and resource extraction at its core. It ruled over 400 million people, almost a quarter of the planet at its height. They relied on their military to establish and maintain power. Wars in their colonies, wars at sea, and wars at home. They ruthlessly crushed all resistance for centuries. After a string of costly and humiliating defeats and the massive expense of rebuilding after World War II, Britain was devastated, unable to defend its territories abroad or sustain its citizens at home. The sun had finally set on the British Empire. As Britain's empire crumbled, another was already rising to take its place.
$110 billion into Ukraine. The Vietnam War.
The war in Afghanistan.
The United States launched its invasion of Iraq.
Trillions spent and no victories to show for it.
The United States has been by far the chief supplier of arms to Israel.
Commitment to Ukraine's ability to defend itself with the announcement of over $3 billion.
$45 billion.
$500 million.
And $2.5 billion military assistance.
But if you keep throwing money that you can't or won't spend to develop your country inside, you're developing a recipe for the collapse of an empire. That's how the British Empire, the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, that's how they came to their end.
I'm gonna say it again. America is not a country. It's a business.
War is America's biggest business. The United States has been at war almost continuously since World War II, finessing its hard power into massive profits for America's most wealthy. The defense spending of the United States is greater than the next 9 nations combined.
There will always be times when it is necessary and just to use force.
Any excuse, any provocation, at home or abroad, the U.S. will be there. There is no place on earth not covered by the Empire's military bases. It's not personal, it's strictly business. War is always financially beneficial for the United States of America. The Iraqi oil reserves, the rare earth in Afghanistan, defense contractors in Vietnam, Korea's contradictions nullify soft power. The Empire leans into brutality.
Weaponizing the U.S. dollar against allies and adversaries.
Abandoning diplomacy for desperation.
You can carry out an unprovoked attack on our economy. Your consumers will pay more and your workers will make less. Gas prices will skyrocket. You will turn a loyal friend into a resentful neighbor, forced to match tariff with tariff and to seek friends everywhere else. And our enemies will grow stronger.
Fueling resistance and causing powerful coalitions to come together against it. From BRICS nations to defiant regional alliances, rivals are strengthening ties through trade and diplomacy.
You can always count on the Americans to do the right thing after exhausting all other possibilities.
In the end, America will not be conquered by outside powers. She'll collapse under the weight of her own arrogance and contradictions. The Empire's foundation rots from within, weighed down by corruption, debt, and a military that serves profits over people. In the end, it won't be an enemy's army that brings the U.S. down.
The military-industrial complex is the one that benefits from this.
What happens when this thing collapses? What happens when the columns start buckling? Are we not in some early stage of that at this present hour? Or are we seeing like the collapse of the empire?